Adjusting. Hello. Sure. Hello, hello. Hello, just adjusting and waiting for people to join. Hello. Hi, how are you? Can you hear me? It is? Oh, okay, it's better now. I just plugged it in, that might be why. Hi. Wait for people to hop in. That was supposed to be a hi. Okay, thank you for not calling me a ho. Well, I guess you spell that differently. It's H-O-E. I knew what you meant. Guys, Gavin Newsom. Let's go, Brandon. Yeah. You saw that picture of Gavin Newsom. He did it again. Mr. Old School is coming in hot. Yeah, he is. It's not even a minute in. Okay, it's 2 minutes in. It's too early for that. Hi, Glenn. How are you? So it's so funny. This is how actually there was really good news. Howdy from Austin. Hi, Austin. You're like the Los Angeles of Texas. How are you, Sarah? I'm really good. I didn't have much going on today, so I'm staying in Virginia, and I know I'm nerdy, but they have tons of antique stores. They're like everywhere. So I went to one today to try and find some treasure, but I didn't find any treasure. That's okay though. I went to one store that had the whole my favorite era I think is the 70s. I like the colors, I like this just the style of clothing, the music, just everything. And I went to this place that it was 2 stories, an antique store, and the second story was nothing but 70s furniture and like decor and clothes, everything. Hi, old guy. That's his name. I'm not being mean. So, California, let me just, while I'm waiting for people to come in, I'll tell you this stuff and then we'll get into this whole Black Lives Matter thing. Ahem. California actually, yes, we are the LA of Texas. It's horrible. Take your folks home. It's not my fault. I have a good friend that lives in Austin. I went to Austin. I can't say this. It's too gross. But now I have to. I'm so sorry. I I went to Austin a few years ago it was a bachelor. It was like 7 years ago. It was a bachelorette party. So we went out, and it's a very cool city, a very fun city, and we went out on a boat. I think there's a river or a lake. So we went out on the boat. It was really fun, but I remember walking around Austin and I saw like the day after, it was like a Sunday, so everyone was partying the night before, and I literally saw, this is the first time I've ever seen this, and I am so sorry, but I already started saying it, and I'm like, I don't want to just ruin your night, but I'll say it as nicely as I can. I've never seen this before anywhere, but I saw it 2 times within a matter of 3 blocks. 2 discarded feminine hygiene products. I saw it on the road that had been used, and I'm so sorry that I had to. No, it's not a poop story. It's actually worse. Discarded, dirty feminine hygiene things, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'm sorry. As soon as I started saying that, I'm like, why would I tell you guys that. But I don't know why when I think of Austin, I think of that because I've never seen that before in my life. And I saw it 2 times within a matter of 3 blocks. But it's kind of a cool music city. There's a lot of music. So California, while people are joining, California actually had some really good news, which I was surprised about. So some good news that came out of California. They were introducing this single healthcare system that was going to be government run, a single payer healthcare system. And basically what it would have done is it would have allowed illegal immigrants to have access to taxpayer healthcare, and it would have doubled taxes. And California already has the highest taxes, I believe, of any state. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the highest taxes out of any state. And this would have doubled taxes. Not to mention, I don't know if you heard of what happened. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone went on, well, a lot of people in like the service industry and those type of jobs, when they got laid off, they all went on unemployment. Well, California's unemployment, it's called EDD, something like that. But that's basically a store that sells used products for a V-shaped door. Ew. Why did I tell you guys that story? So anyway, their unemployment's called EDD, I think. I can't remember. I don't know what it stands for, but that was it. They had $30 billion in fraud. Like basically every government run thing in California, even down to the DMV, it's just run terribly. So the fact that they're even introducing another government system that is probably going to be a huge mess and double taxes, but they were thinking about this. Thankfully, it died today. They voted on it and they said, no, we're not going to do this. So that is good news for California. In other California news, I'm sure you saw, I had it on my channel in a little short, Gavin Newsom at SoFi I always call it SoFi Stadium. At the Rams game, and he's maskless. Eric Garcetti is maskless. London Breed is the mayor of San Francisco, maskless, taking pictures, hanging out with celebrities. And look, I'm not mad that they were maskless. I could care less, okay? I am okay with ending all of it. But the people that are imposing these rules on everyone else are the ones out there without them on. That's what the problem is. You're forcing everyone else to wear them and you're not wearing them. That's where the problem is. And it was so funny because Gavin, the pictures went everywhere. Magic Johnson actually put the pictures on his Instagram account with millions of followers. Not too much. I'm just chatting. I haven't really gotten started yet. I'm going to get started in just a minute with the talk. I'm just talking about Gavin Newsom being at SoFi Stadium without a mask on. But the funny thing is, so many people were talking about it, and he started trending on Twitter that he had to come out and address it. So he said, you know what? I was really careful. I just took it down for a second. I was being gracious, just taking a picture, just took it down for a second. And then, of course, like the jumbo cam in the stadium, there's just pictures of him without his mask on, like the entire time. And then you have people that were in a box next to him saying, wait a second, we saw him and he didn't have a mask on. So he basically lied. He lied and he got busted lying. But that's, is that anything new? No, it's not. It's like the French Laundry all over again, which again, don't wear it. I don't care. But you're the one forcing everyone else to. My state just made indoor masking permanent. Oh my gosh, what state do you live in, Timothy? What state? Permanently? I can't stand Newsom smirk. Gavin Newsom, watch the movie American Psycho. That is Gavin Newsom. He's also like the epitome of, like, if you subscribe to the idea of white privilege, Oregon, oh, Portland. I guarantee you there will be some people that will never stop wearing them. Newsom makes me understand murder. But if you subscribe to the idea of white privilege, Gavin Newsom is the epitome of that. And he had the nerve to say that if you voted for, when his recall election was going on, he had the nerve to say that if you were voting for Larry Elder, you are basically a white supremacist. Even though Larry Elder's dad actually did face a lot of discrimination and segregation back in the day. Larry Elder was raised in South Central LA, came from nothing. Like, Larry Elder, in my opinion, disregard how you feel about his beliefs, but just his life in general and how successful he is and where he came from and all the discrimination his dad faced. He is the American dream. And for Gavin Newsom, and then the LA Times, that was the infamous LA Times article, Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. How these people get away with saying this is just mind-blowing. I'm in Oregon too, southern part of the state. Wow, permanent? Okay. Speaking of white people stuff, I heard someone refer to horseradish as honky wasabi. That's actually kind of funny. It's true. Hi, William. It is true. It kind of is. I love horseradish. Put a little bit of horseradish in cheese dip. I know it sounds gross, but give it a try. It's delicious. Okay. Let's talk about what is happening with Black Lives Matter. And I am not surprised that this is happening. What I am surprised is that it took this long. And my feelings about Black Lives Matter have stayed the same since the very beginning. I personally think that they are, and this is my personal opinion, I personally think that they are a fraudulent organization and that they have been from the very beginning. And it's interesting. I was talking to my mom the other night, and we were talking about this because there actually have been, people who happen to be black who were, fatally shot by police officers in the past few months. And I'm like, I haven't seen Black Lives Matter. Where are they? Well, it's because their job is done. I think that were a strong arm for the Democratic Party. I think that they are a fraudulent organization, and we're going to get into that. They may or may not be in trouble. I don't know. But I was like, we don't see them anywhere, Mom, because their job is done. They raised tons of money. They got Democrats in office. They, intimidated anyone that went against them, raised all this money, went and bought fancy houses, and then sort of like now you don't see them anymore because they're not useful anymore. They did what they came to do. And I think that's true. And I would love to see some of the biggest supporters of BLM. I would love to see what they think about this. Where's BLM? But yes, they started, their whole messaging started on a lie. Hands up, don't shoot. We know that didn't happen. And immediately before having all the information, they were marching down the street saying all pigs must die. None of the leaders, and this was from the very beginning, because I remember back in Ferguson when they were rioting in Ferguson, and none of the leaders ever came out to say, hey, you guys, please be peaceful. We don't want to ruin the messaging behind our movement. We need you guys to be peaceful. They never came out and said that, ever. In 2020, I think it was like close to 24 people died at the hands of other rioters, one being an 8-year-old little girl. And still, not one time did any of the leaders come out and say, hey, you guys, it's getting too violent. We need to control ourselves. We need to be peaceful. They never did that. I think they liked my personal opinion, I think they liked the chaos. I think that was their intention. And even that Time magazine article, The Shadow Campaign Behind the 2020 Election. If you haven't read that, I'll repeat it again, The Shadow Campaign Behind the 2020 Election. If you have not read that, it's a must read, and it explains everything. Because typically people that do the things that they do, they have to brag about it in some way. And it was basically saying that, yes, bigger minds within the Democratic Party, I'm not saying elected officials, but minds within, with that side of things, they used the protests. They basically admit that they used the protests. And, anywho, that's my feelings about BLM. They also never advocated for complying. And Even Breonna Taylor's mom came out and called them fraudulent, and she said, "You are raising money off the back of my daughter, my dead daughter. You're raising money on her name, and we haven't seen a dime." Local BLM chapters have also come out against BLM, saying they raised all this money and we haven't seen anything. Also, every single city that had major protesting and major riotings, all of the crime has increased in those cities. So they have done nothing to better the community. I haven't seen them build after school programs, outreach programs, nothing. So that to me just shows that they don't really care about the communities that they say to care about. I don't need to know anything else other than that. And they raised $90 million. They raised I'm not laughing at that. I was laughing at the comment. BLM was DNC scam. Yes, they were. They raised $90 million. Well, now, it's a total grift. Patrice Kahn Colors, who is one of the organizers, one of the founders of BLM, went on a $3.2 million real estate shopping spree within this past year. And a lot of people were saying, well, where did she get that money? Like, where is this money coming from? So many acronyms, I feel like I'm back in the military. So a lot of people have been critical. That's why I'm actually surprised this isn't happening now. So a few days ago, an article, well, actually 5 days ago, this article came out on the New York Post, and it says, Black Lives Matter transferred millions to a Canadian charity run by the wife of its co-founder to purchase a sprawling mansion that had once served as the headquarters of the Communist Party. And that's another issue that I have with them. They have admitted that they are trained Marxists and they have political motivations behind what they're doing. And I know that they are trained Marxists because Patrice Kahn Colors herself admitted this on camera, not several times. And if you went on their webpage where their mission statement is and what they believed in, basically said they want to abolish family systems. And we know that more, especially more young boys commit crime that don't have fathers in the home. So we know that the family unit is very important. And they also said they wanted to abolish police and stuff like that. And that's funny because this mansion that they bought was the headquarters of the Communist Party in Canada. See, they're not purchasing any property in low-income, high-crime areas. They're purchasing property out in Canada, a mansion. M4BJ, a Toronto-based nonprofit set up by Janaya Khan and other Canadian activists, snagged the 10,000 square foot historic property for the equivalent of $6.3 million in cash on July 2021, according to Toronto property records viewed by the Post. Khan is the wife of Patrice Kahn Colors, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Global Foundation Network, a self-avowed Marxist. She resigned from the group last year after the Post revealed that she had spent $3.2 million on homes in Georgia, Los Angeles. Kahn Colors vigorously denied that BLM donations were used to buy those homes. The purchase of the Toronto property, named the Wild Seed Center for Art and Activism, came to light amid mounting concerns over the U.S. activist group lack of transparency in finances. In Canada, the purchase was criticized by two senior members of the group who resigned earlier this month over the building's funding. So it's not going good in BLM. For BLM Canada to take money from BLM Global Network for a building without consulting the community was unethical, tweeted Sarah Jama earlier this month. For BLM Canada to refuse to answer questions from young Black organizers goes against the spirit of movement building. The question were raised when Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is going through its own internal turmoil as two activists who were put to manage the organization after Kahn Colors' resignation abruptly left in September, according to the Washington Examiner. Okay, so two people told the newspaper that they didn't know who was managing the group's more than $66 million windfall from Thousand Currents, a nonprofit that managed its donations. Unfortunately, this appears to be an epic abuse of public trust in which an entire movement's resources are being squandered within the whims of financial mismanagement of one person in the inner circle. So these two people were basically hired to be higher ups within Black Lives Matter because Patrisse Cullors stepped aside, and it looks like they were set to take those positions, and both of them announced, hey, we do not work for BLM. We did it because it's a lot of money. But if you think about it, they raised $90 million. So almost $30 million. Where did almost $30 million go? Well, it gets worse. So that was 5 days ago when that came out. And then the Washington Examiner started looking through records and is saying, wow, there's a lot of things that are not adding up. They're busy making the next move on purchasing the next $1 million house. So now the California Department of Justice has threatened to hold the leaders of Black Lives Matter personally liable if they fail to fork over information about the charity's $60 million bankroll within the next 60 days, according to a letter obtained by the Washington Examiner. So that's where I'm reading this from. The move came just days after the Washington Examiner's investigation found that BLM has had no known leader in charge of its millions since co-founder resigned in May, and that the Los Angeles address it lists on its tax forms is wrong. So they had a location listed on their tax forms, and the Washington Examiner went out to find the location, and they had never been there. They're just giving them time to clean stuff up. The organization Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is delinquent with the Registry of Charitable Trusts for failing to submit required annual reports. BLM is also prohibited from soliciting or dispersing charitable funds in California until it submits its 2020 Form 990 and other financial records to the state. The California DOJ informed the charity Monday. The letter added that BLM Global Network Foundation, the legal entity that represents the BLM movement, faces fines for each month or partial month for which the receipts are delinquent. Charitable assets cannot be used to pay these avoidable costs, so they have to pay it personally. California's warning comes to BLM weeks after Washington ordered the charity to immediately cease fundraising in the liberal state due to its lack of financial transparency. So Washington State even said that they can't fundraise in that state. Despite the order, BLM continues to solicit and receive contributions from Washington residents. Multiple charity experts previously told the Washington Examiner that BLM's lack of transparency surrounding its finances and operations raises major legal and ethical red flags. So, in the year 2020, they apparently raised $90 million, and when they closed, BLM reported in February 2021 that it closed out 2020 with $60 million in its bank accounts. But the charity won't say who has been in control of the funds for the past 8 months, and the address listed on the charity's 2019 tax form is wrong. BLM's co-founder Patrisse Cullors appointed 2 activists to lead the organization when she resigned in May 2021 amid criticism of her personal finances, but her replacements quietly announced in September that they never took the job because of disagreements within BLM. I guarantee you what happened is they thought about taking the job, and then they got a glimpse in to what was going on, and they were like, yeah, we don't want to be a part of this. I guarantee you that's what happened. Of course they want the money. Local Black activists publicly criticized the National BLM organization in late 2020 for its lack of financial transparency and for providing little to no funding to local BLM chapters across the country. Charity Watch Executive Director Lori Styron previously said that BLM was like a giant ghost ship full of treasure drifting in the night with no captain, no discernible crew, and no clear direction. The National Legal and Policy Center will be filing a formal complaint with the Attorneys General of Washington and California to impose the maximum penalties on Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation for their flagrant and repeated violations of the charity disclosure laws in those states, and it seems in many others. BLM did not return any quest for comment. Again, I'm not surprised at this at all, because their funds have been questionable for a very long time. But what I am surprised is how it took so long. It took the Washington Examiner to look into what was going on. BLM has no captain, just a rudder. Oh, and, you know, the New York Post, BLM co-founder colors tied to other groups with spending red flags. BLM donors deserve to know who's in charge of spending their millions. They are starting to figure out BLM. They never did. I mean, all you have to do is look at their behavior. Look at everywhere they have protested, and it's so obvious. Oh yeah, and then there was the whole Act Blue thing somebody just mentioned. So Act Blue is basically the absent leading the blind. So Act Blue basically funnels donations to the Democratic Party. They're tied to the DNC, and that's what BLM used to collect donations. So a lot of people were thinking they were just raising money for the Democrats. It's just so wild to me how many people just jump on this movement and bandwagon on it, and they can't, it's clear as day. It's like you do, because the Flying Dutchman needs a captain, you do what everyone else is doing and you don't think about it. I remember, I think I've told you guys this before, but I basically, throughout the whole pandemic, I lived in Protest Central, and I remember one day my boyfriend was coming to pick me up, and I was just waiting outside because it was like a nice afternoon, and it was a protest had just ended, a BLM protest. I was just about to bring up Act Blue. Yeah, that's another thing. And again, go back to that article in the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times. It was either Time or New York Times. I think it was Time magazine. The shadow campaign behind the 2020 election. They basically admit that they used the protests. It was a nice afternoon, so I was waiting outside, and a BLM protest had just finished. So on my street, there was like a spillover of people that were out protesting for BLM. And there was one girl who had a sign about Breonna Taylor, and it said she was asleep in her bed. And at this point in time, we had known that that wasn't true. She was not asleep in her bed. She was standing in the hallway. But what stuck out to me was, okay, you took the effort to make a sign. You got dressed, got in your car, drove to a location, were outside in the sun, in the hot sun, it was summer, in the hot sun, protesting. It took you all this effort. Wouldn't you know the basic facts around the thing that you're protesting? When I'm passionate about something, I'm looking it up, I'm following the news, I'm following everything. If I have that much passion to go out and protest for the thing. And I'll always say, like, I welcome anyone that protests. There was one BLM protest that was in front of my house, and I actually walked with the people a little bit in the protest, and I was talking to one guy, just asking him questions, and then I went home. Yeah, she was in the hallway with her boyfriend, but it just blows my mind how you can have that much passion to go out and protest, but you don't even know the fact. Like, you haven't looked up any of the facts, because this had been known for months at this point. But that's a lot of them. they do it because of a few headlines they see and because all their other friends are doing it, and then they go out, but they have no idea what they're actually protesting. None of them do. And it's wild. Like, and again, even if I disagree with you, you should have the right to go out and protest. And as long as people are not being violent, I have no issue with it. Come to my neighborhood, you know? Most of us are bored. It's something exciting. I don't care whether I agree with you or not. I just don't like you to break things and hurt people. That's all. All of them must be held accountable. And you know what? I was thinking about this too, because, January 6th, so many people were saying that Trump incited it, which he didn't. I guess there's an argument made there, and a lot of people were saying he should have come out sooner and condemned the people breaking in and the violence that happened. But where were those people with the leaders of BLM who for months, basically an entire summer, there were ongoing riots? Not one person ever said, the leaders of BLM need to come out and condemn this. Maybe conservatives did, but why are they not holding their leaders to the same account as Trump? That doesn't make any sense. And that's another reason why I don't respect them, because this went on for months. And they knew it was going on. Everyone knew it was going on. Not one time did they come out and say, hey guys, this movement is really important. It's important to go out and protest and make your voice heard, but do it in a safe way, no violence. He told people to go home on Twitter and then they banned him. Yeah, exactly. And the leaders in fact, our media encouraged it. They said it's the voice of the unheard. People that what did AOC say? She said people that are looting, they just need bread, man. They just need bread. No one was stealing bread. False flag attack. Oh, for sure. I believe that. And it's almost funny. They just think we're so dumb. I'll watch some MSDNC sometimes, or some CNN, and the way that they cover January 6th, it's like, wow, you don't think I have eyeballs. They're doing the same thing with what's going on with the truckers. They're trying to, I actually watched, so there's a guy on YouTube, his name is Philip DeFranco, and I would categorize him as someone that is on the left. But he talks about news stories, pop culture stories, stuff like that every day. And he actually talked about the truckers in Canada. So I clicked on, I know I don't watch him anymore, but I clicked on, they were stealing a lot. Okay, my favorite thing, I think it's on my Instagram story somewhere. My favorite thing that I saw, I had to laugh. There was a news person, a reporter, staring or giving a report. He was in front of a big box store while people were going in and looting, and he was reporting on the looting. Well, right behind him was this guy who had a dolly and was stealing a washing machine and was just running and rolling with it right across the camera in the background while this man is reporting. But, so I watched Philip DeFranco cover the protests in Canada, and it's so funny how we live in two different realities, because he was the way that whatever news he consumes had told him that there's a lot of white supreme sandwiches, and, the Nazi people were there, and we all know that the main goal of this protest was to be peaceful, and, they condemn anyone that does that. And we also know that people will go in these protests. They'll to make it look bad. It happens. So you'll see a man with like a big Confederate flag that will go and just plant himself, and someone will snap a picture of it, and they'll use that to try to paint the whole protest like it was a bad thing. But there was also a video where some of the truckers that were out there protesting saw a guy with a Confederate flag, and they were like, get out of here, we don't want you here. Like, this is not what we're about, and we want you to go. And they shamed him, and the guy left, and he was there by himself. But that does happen. There are provocateurs that do that, and for nefarious reasons. But it was just interesting how you can live in two totally different realities. And the truth of the matter is, Democrats were always supposed to be the ones for the working man. This is the biggest. Yes, I saw that. I think that dude was a Fed. Fed. I mean, people do that. The reporter should have tried to get an interview with the rioting protest rampage shopper to ask where the deals were. That one I had to be like, it was funny. It was funny. He should have.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
I wasn't talking to you, Siri. But yeah, that was pretty funny. I can't remember what news station that was on. It certainly wasn't CNN. He just needed bread. That's all. But so what's happening in Canada, it's interesting how the Democrats are framing this, because this is really, in my lifetime, maybe in yours, I don't know, this is the largest labor uprising that I've ever seen. And Democrats used to be all about the working man and, the workers. Well, Sarah talking about Richard Madcow? Huh? Do you think we live post-truth? Sarah, he needs to wash his clothes. Yes. I mean, what news station was that? It was funny. And he brought a dolly. Hello from Northeast Ohio. He brought a dolly. Rachel Maddow. She's taking a hiatus, isn't she? I love how Trudeau says it's a small fringe of Canadians, then he's going into hiding. Yeah, the only small fringe in that situation is the government. It's definitely not the people, it's the government. That's the fringe. That's the fringe minority. And then he tried to say that they were, what did he say? That they were espousing hateful. Oh, and this is another thing that Philip DeFranco on his channel reiterated. So that just shows they don't understand that these people lie and they slander. So Justin Trudeau, he had this like Twitter meltdown. So he gave that statement on camera, and then he had this massive Twitter meltdown. And he said that the people protesting in Ottawa were stealing food from the homeless. And if you've seen video, they were actually feeding the homeless, and they were cleaning up trash on the streets. Small fringe minority, yeah. But that's how Rachel Maddow is delusional as AOC once helped other come into being with their nonsensical propaganda. But I think that's how they get away with lying so much, is because they pay attention to the people that just listen to everything they say. Oh, Richard Madcow. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Justin Trudeau, the same guy who fled his own country. Are there probably bad apples in that protest? Yeah. But it is nothing compared to... And also, there, speaking of BLM, for him to call this, like, dangerous and these people, their hateful rhetoric, what about the people that were saying all cops are pigs, all cops must die, eat the rich? That's not hateful rhetoric? And they were protesting in his country. Hateful. Misinformation. And if you really pay attention to that protest, it's about so much more than just the mandate. It's about government being out of control. It's about people getting tired of having, elite politicians slander them and lie about them and lie to them. It's about so much more than that. And they said it might be happening in America, so they might be having trucks go from California to DC. We'll see what happens with that. They're going to do everything they can to try to stop it. And you know what? I was also looking. Maybe Trudeau knows where some of that BLM money went to. Maybe he does. Just checking on my cat. Maybe he does. Do you think government have wheat GMO make people less reactive, careless? Well, I think that'll, I don't know about that. That's not something that I've really looked into, but I will say this. A lot of stuff, we have so much stuff to make us super comfortable. You know, we have, and then in California, I'm not against weed at all, but when you smoke a lot of it or when you're high all the time, you care less. But a lot of these things, like especially during the pandemic, were promoted, like not being around other people. You know, a lot of people were drinking alcohol. A lot of people were smoking weed. If you live in California or one of those states, binge watching Netflix or whatever. All of those things in moderation, I think, are completely fine. But we live where people are just constantly on your phone. I think that technology is a big thing. I think when you're just constantly here, you're not paying attention. Something that I noticed too, living in California, so I specifically moved to an area, one thing that's really high, you know, you have your list of things when you look for a place to live, you have your list of things that are sort of at the top. And mine are a place that's walkable. I love to walk. I walk several miles every day. So I wanted somewhere where I could walk to the grocery store or to like out to eat or things like that or to the pharmacy. So that's really important to me. And then safety. Because I like to walk and you like to feel safe. So I will pay more money to live in an area where I can walk because you save on gas and stuff like that, and to live in an area that's safe. I'm different than a lot of my friends. Like, even though I lived in a place that is walkable, it's funny how many people will get in their car and drive 2 blocks when they could walk. But I had a lot of friends like that. And what I noticed is that you're on your phone all day, and then you get in your car and you drive to work. You get in your car, you drive, maybe you go out to eat or go to happy hour after or go to, you know, the grocery, and then you get in your car. It is so easy to live an insulated life, even insulated from your own city. And one of the reasons why I started speaking out is just from walking in my neighborhood every day. It's amazing how many people do not walk around their neighborhood, and you miss so much. Even my boyfriend has a motorcycle. Even being on the motorcycle, you feel a lot more connected to the world. When you're in your car with the windows up or even sometimes down, there's a disconnect because you're inside of something. I know that sounds weird. I'm going on a weird angle, but hear me out. When you're walking or when you're on like a scooter or a bicycle or a motorcycle, you feel a lot more connected to your surroundings. So there's a lot that I saw just because I walked every day. So I saw the homeless getting worse. I saw them getting more aggressive. I noticed that there were streets that I could walk down before that I didn't feel safe walking down, even in the area that I lived in. And I would have these conversations with my friends, and they would be like, "What are you talking about? Huh? Like, what are you talking about?" And, you know, there could be 4 crimes that happen within a 2-block radius, and you might have no idea. You're inside, you're watching Netflix, you're listening to music, you're on social media, you're doing whatever, and you don't watch the news. You could have no idea what's going on around you. And I think, you know, and back in the day, you did have to be, you know, we didn't have all of this technology. You had people going to church together and people being in a community together, and you just don't have those things anymore. So I think that a lot of people are disconnected because of that. And if all you watch is CNN, that's your whole reality. And it's very easy that way. There's a saying, good times create weak men create bad times create strong men. And I think we're in that good times create weak men. Even look at the military. A friend of mine, his son just joined the military, and the military is having a really hard time finding recruits. And when they do find people that want to join, you know, you have to pass like a physical, basically. They're finding that a lot of the people that are wanting to join, when they do want to join, they're not passing the physical. And now there's like I think there is I think like a $50,000 bonus if you sign up for the military for 5 years. If you do it for 3 years, I think it's 30,000. That's how bad they need people right now. And I think a lot of kids are overweight. A lot of kids have like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And because of that, they're not meeting the standards required to join the military. And I think it's all connected. I think that sort of goes into good times create weak men. If you're kid, I just had this conversation too with a friend of mine, and it's like, when I was growing up, I was outside all day. In the summertime, I lived outside. My mom had to call me in at night. I was like climbing trees, swimming the pool, rollerblading, skateboarding, riding my bicycle, getting dirty, just exploring, getting lost. And I feel like kids don't do that as much anymore. And that creates, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. That creates a toughness that I think when you're so insulated and you're inside all day, when you're playing video games, or when your parents are hovering around you, not letting you go off and run and play. And, Jordan Peterson talks about it being a little dangerous, taking risks. When you don't do that, you become a weak adult. I love that saying. It's a way to break the cycle and raise good men and women who want to show gratitude for what they have. And yes, better be hitting up ammunition stores. But I think we are sort of going through that cycle where, especially like people my age and my generation, have been raised by parents that coddle them and overprotect them. I had this conversation with someone too. Like, I remember when I was really little and I would go out to eat with my parents, I was like, I probably shouldn't have been doing this, but we went to one restaurant that had this little arcade in it. It was called Buffalo's in Georgia. I don't know if they exist anymore, but it had this little arcade in it. So we would go off and play the arcade games. And now, like, you see kids at the restaurant and they have these giant iPads and they're just playing. Or if we were at a place that didn't have a little play area, I was like playing, I was coloring, or I was playing with stuff on the table, or I was just exploring my world around me. And you see a lot of kids and they're just stuck on these iPads. Mostly I see single moms doing with their sons, especially. Yes. And kids do. They need to get a little hurt sometimes. They need to learn to take risks. And Jordan Peterson talks about that a lot. And then they're softening everything. Like, even in comedy, like, I watch if you guys like a dark comedy, a great movie, it's called Drop Dead Gorgeous. Well, it's an independent dark comedy about a small town pageant with girls. There is so much humor in that film that that movie never would have been made today. And that it wasn't even made that long ago, but everything, it's like softening. It's just a softening and a censoring of everything. And I think offensive humor is kind of important. Like, I like being around people that can make fun of me and that I can make fun of them and they don't get offended, because it comes out of love, I think. Video arcades used to be everywhere. Yeah. Hi, Special K. We used to play this restaurant that we went to. Part of it is the absence of real dads. A good father plays rough with his kids, which strengthens them. Yeah, I think that's important too. My dad was a race car driver, and we used to go to the junkyard to get parts, because he would take old Camaros and he would take off the shell and then rebuild. Hi, Special K. He would rebuild everything on the inside. But that's where he would get his cars from, the junkyard. And so he would be like going around looking at cars, and my sister and I were just playing in the junkyard with like scrap metal everywhere, which probably isn't very safe, but I'm not a sissy. Sarah, my uncle raced cars on dirt tracks. That's very cool. Jerry Was a Race Car Driver is one of my favorite songs. I never heard that song. I don't know if my dad, my dad started racing go-karts and then eventually graduated to race cars. There was this video on Fox News, and it was of a guy, Primus. Is that how you say it, Primus? There was this video on Fox News, and it was of this guy who actually voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He was a Kamala Harris supporter, and then he became a Joe Biden supporter when Kamala Harris was out of the running. And he was actually in a campaign video for Joe Biden and Kamala. And he said that he was like, I am so disgusted with this party. The Democratic Party is not what it used to be. It is so far removed from the everyday American. And he was like, everything that Biden has done, whether it's Afghanistan or this gender identity stuff, he said his first day in office, he just destroyed Title IX by going with gender identity. The Afghanistan withdrawal, the inflation, the border, like everything, he was saying, this is not the party I recognize. And that's what and like the soft on crime policies and stuff like that. Because whatever Jen Psaki says, it's Democratic, liberal, soft on crime policies that are causing these crime surges. But he said that the Democratic Party now does not represent the average American and is in fact betraying the average American. I thought that was pretty interesting. But I think that's how a lot of people feel, people that pay attention. I used to be a liberal, and then I saw them go off. Well, I think I'm still kind of liberal in some ways, but I'm definitely, as far as Republican policies, I very much identify with Republicans a lot more than liberals, and it seems like now the Republican Party is the one for the everyday blue-collar working person. Psaki is a solid argument for the gingers who have no souls. There was, my sister is a ginger. I have some gingers in my family. There was a South Park episode about gingers taking over the world. I remember that quite well. Backtrack, Psaki. Circle back, Psaki. Saki. I keep saying Psaki. Gingers. Do I know any gingers right now? Circle back. Circle back, Sucky. They also had an episode about watch out for daywalkers. Jen Psaki. Jen. Well, I know that. And I have a few cousins that are gingers. It's funny, on my dad's side, it's the Italian side, but there's also a little bit of Irish, and all the kids, like all my cousins are gingers. But then on my mom's side, it's like light brown, blondish hair. I didn't get the ginger gene. Speaking of interesting drinks, when do we meet your sis? Oh, she would never. She's very liberal. Great vampire movie is Near Dark with Bill Paxton. Never saw it. There was a ginger on Gilligan's Island. What was I gonna say? I have ginger whiskers. My best bud got red hairs. Oh, see, this is how liberal I used to be. I hate saying liberal. I should say Democrat, not liberal. I get it. My sister's into Wicca. Um, this is how much of a Democrat I used to be. I voted for Obama both terms, and his first term after he won, I think it was his first term, maybe it was his second term actually. I had Obama teenies in celebration. It was a blue martini. That's how Democratic I used to be. And my friend got really drunk on those. Lame, I know. I'm honest though. Yeah, it was actually, I've always liked Ginger better than Marianne. I did too. I liked Ginger better than Marianne. It was the second term when, boy, do I regret my Clinton vote. I voted for Obama because I thought he would actually end the wars. Fooled me good. Well, yeah, he ran on change and all of this stuff. And I just remember, well, during his second term, I started working for the government. I worked for the state of Virginia, and then I worked for the city of Denver. And those two jobs really shifted my perspective on a lot of things. Obama teeny. Yes, I drank an Obama teeny. But those two jobs shifted my perspective on a lot of things. And I was a mental health worker, so I was one of those people that they said, you know, should go respond to, they should defund the police and have mental health workers go respond to domestic violence calls or, whatever. By the way, the officers that were killed in New York, that was a domestic violence call. So those can be some of the most dangerous calls, and you want an unarmed social worker to go respond. No, thank you. As a former mental health worker, no. But, we worked in tandem a lot with police officers. Like, they went in, made sure things were safe, or brought people to us for evaluation. Sarah has moved around too much, and she has an assassin cat, CIA agent. You know what's funny? I think that people don't, like, when they see me in person, and I'm a very, bubbly, I'm a very happy, bubbly, and outgoing person, and then they talk to me, I think it throws them off that I'm not stupid. And I did have somebody think that I was like a Russian spy or something. Except I don't have the accent, and I'm way too smiley to be Russian. I don't think it helped that I had a book called, it wasn't The Art of War, it was like Strategies of War, like some, I don't remember. Obama's still in office. Somebody is. The White Widow. Someone's in office. I don't know who. Yeah, but I'm circling back if you haven't noticed. No, you don't act seriously because you were smart. Oh, thank you. I hear Swalwell is looking for a new spy. You mean Fartwell? I'm sorry. Oh, I should get out my fart book in honor of Swalwell. I'm sorry. I know I'm an adult and I swear I'm mature, but all I think about when I think about Eric Swalwell is when he farted on television. I'm sorry. But I can't get over that. I can't get past it. That's all I think about. I don't even think about the spy situation. That trumps the spy situation, and that's not right. I just think about him farting. Smart fart. He's loose. Imagine. Yes, farts will always be funny. Ham 57, you still need to laugh at something to stay young. Oh yeah, at least Swalwell didn't shit on the Pope. Russiagate 2.0. Yes, I still can't get over that too. The New York Post had an article where who is it? The Duchess of was it? Who was that? Was it the Duchess of Cambridge? I don't know. I'm saying it wrong. Don't take my word for it. But it was somebody very. It was somebody royal. Royal? It was somebody that you don't do that in front of. And it was like, the whole article was, she just couldn't get past the fart. That's all she taught. Camilla Parker Bowles, yes. I just couldn't get over the fact that he farted. It was so long and hard to ignore. Duchess of Cornwall, that's Duchess of Cambridge. We did do, the last time we talked about that, there is a fart in my fart book called The Long Goodbye, and we did that in honor of Biden's long fart in front of Camilla. I hear it was legendary. Yeah. Have you heard of the truckers protest? Yeah, we were actually talking about that for quite a while. The truckers protest. That is probably, I said this earlier, but in my lifetime, that is probably the biggest labor uprising that I've ever seen. And I think it's pretty rad. And it's pretty despicable of Justin Trudeau slandering them the way that he did, knowing that he excused the BLM riots that happened in Canada for an entire summer, because they were in Canada as well. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some buildings burnt in Canada as well. Maybe a church or two? Look that up. I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, that's pretty appalling. And, you know, and that just goes to show, like, he's so out of touch and he doesn't understand. Oh, hello, Elliot. We were just talking about the truckers in Canada. How's it going? Are you still in Ottawa? That just goes to show that he's really disconnected from his own people because he doesn't understand what this is about. One of the, what I think, I mean, a lot of churches were burned. Okay, so Elliot, thank you. A lot of churches were burned. Yeah, so during that whole time, churches were burning, and he supported this protest, and then he has the nerve to call the truckers, to accuse them of having hateful rhetoric, when you can burn a church or say, all cops are pigs, all cops must die, you can say all of that, and that's fine. But it just goes to show how disconnected he is from the people, because a lot of the reasons, well, I think Elliot can chime in or correct me if I'm wrong, but I really think that some of the reasoning behind this, yes, it's the mandates, but it's also this disconnect from the people in office and the people. And that's what this uprising is all about. It's like we're tired of having these things mandated. We don't want it. We're tired of our government slandering us. We're tired of our government betraying us or belittling us, and we've had enough. You work for the people, and you're not working for the majority of the people, and that's exactly what's going on in the United States. Our government is not working for the people. They're working for themselves. That's all it is. I mean, look at, I'm not as keen on Canadian politics, but our politicians, look at every single thing that has been imposed since Biden has taken office. Not one thing is for the everyday American people. Not one thing. They're working for themselves. They're not working for us. That little pansy was mocking Trump at some world leader conference too. Who was it that Trudeau called them tinfoil hat wearing cult? Yeah, I mean, come on. Love the truckers, hold the front line. And they do it here in the U.S. too. Like if you look at everything that is happening in California, whether it was the recall of Gavin Newsom, now you have this recall of George Gascon, the local district attorney. And every time they have an opposition, every time that something like this comes up, they automatically slander the people by calling them far right extremists, and that's basically what Justin Trudeau is calling the truckers that are protesting. We aren't backing down. Good. That's basically what Justin Trudeau is doing with the truckers in Canada. He's slandering them as extremists, hateful rhetoric. They're in a cult. They're a fringe minority group. That's what our politicians try to do. It's like he's reading the playbook from the U.S., and it's clearly not working for the U.S. So I don't know why he would do that, but he's reading from our playbook to just go ahead and slander at all your opposition and lie about them, and that's going to be okay. Well, if I was out there protesting, that would make me even more mad. There's a lot of First Nations people out to protest. Here in Saudi, we love Trump. He is a frank man and has leadership. And that's the thing. Whether you like Trump's rhetoric or you hate it, you do have to admit he says exactly what he's thinking. And that's what I like about him. I think that's refreshing. I'd rather have someone that's a little brash and a little offensive than someone that's really calculated and that lies. Like everything that Trump says, it comes right out. And it's not always pretty, but it comes right out. I don't trust anything that any of the other ones says. So at least whether you like what Trump says or not, you can trust that it's what he's thinking is what he's saying. The truckers are making the truck into a love stand. Someone was calling who was calling it Truckistan? Trudeau is the leader of the America's unruly tope. Trump had a strong personality for the people. It's not, and it looks as though that they have a lot of support as well. Yeah, toupee hairpiece. Trudeau is the never trucker. Didn't they walk back restrictions in Ontario? I think they did. Well, now because of the pictures that went out in California, because of the pictures that went out of Gavin Newsom, because of the pictures that went out of Gavin Newsom, now they're calling on them to end the mandates in Los Angeles because there's a mask mandate in Los Angeles and they were breaking it. Also, technically we're in Los Angeles is a state of emergency, and how are you going to be in a state of emergency yet you're going to have the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl is going to be at SoFi Stadium. Don't make no sense. It doesn't make any sense. You don't have to be a genius for that to not make sense. CBC is just more CNN and MSNBC. Oh my gosh, did anyone see Brian Stelter talking about Joe Rogan? He is so mad. And so the Joe Rogan podcast, in case you don't know, I think it's the most popular podcast there is. He's on Spotify. He gets 11 million listens per episode, which is insane for a podcast. And CNN, like all these celebrities, they're like has-been celebrities are trying to boycott, or they're removing Alka Stelter. They're removing their music catalogs from Spotify, the platform that Joe Rogan is on, in protest of misinformation. Even though Joe Rogan, he literally just has conversations, he asks questions, he has people from every side on. He's just a curious person. It's just him talking. That's all his show is. And it just drives them crazy. Well, Brian Stelter had this segment on his show. He's like, isn't it awful when people trust Joe Rogan more than they trust CNN. We have an entire department of health. We have an entire department that does research. We carefully craft what we're going to say. But it's like, wow, the lack of self-awareness. That's exactly it. Isn't it sad that people don't trust you because you lie? Yes, you have all of those things, and then you continue to lie and push propaganda when you're supposed to be the news, not Joe Rogan. He's just talking to people. You're supposed to be the news. That's why people don't watch you. And even so, CNN's going through this huge merger, and one of the biggest shareholders in the merger has said that he wants CNN to go back to actual journalism. Yes, CNN lost 80 to 90% of their viewers, and they're mad and they're crying about it, and they're like, everything's wrong with everyone else, instead of like, maybe it's us. Maybe we're the reason why people don't want to watch our show. And the thing about it is, too, it's not like Joe Rogan is on the same time slot as Brian Stelter. You can listen to Joe Rogan's podcast whenever you want. It's there for you to listen to it whenever you want to listen to it. So it's not like he's taking viewers away from a certain time slot. It's people are just not watching CNN, and it's not because of Joe Rogan. It's because you lie. You lie, 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 and everybody knows it. Content creators, I can't remember who came up with that term, but they were like, we should call CNN content creators. They're not news, they just make content. That's all they do. Rogan called out CNN on the medication, and the liberals have been going, yes, I forgot. Thank you, Max. Yeah. I like Blaze TV. Yes, actually, he's done it several times. He's called out Fox News, or not Fox News. He's called out CNN several times for not being honest. So I think that's another reason why they're so triggered by him. But he's not the only one. Everyone calls out CNN. Everybody calls out CNN. Everybody knows. Except for, probably like people that are just super lefty that just want to hear, that just want to be in an echo chamber and hear things just back at them. Confirmation bias? Is that what I'm going for? Clearly not news. CNN edited Rogan's video to make him look sick. I know. And if you're the one, and this is what CNN Communism News Network. And here's the thing, like all these old rockers that used to be hippies are now trying to censor Joe Rogan. They're trying to take your opportunity to choose what you listen to away from you. They're on the wrong side of history. That is true. Lance made a good point. Criticizing Rogan drives views to their sites. That's true. His name alone will get those clicks. What time is it? It is 10. Glenn said, Wilmington, North Carolina. Did you say it was voted the best place to live? I have never been to Wilmington, North Carolina, but I've heard really good things about Wilmington, North Carolina. I met Joni Mitchell when she did What She Did Makes Me Sad. You know what? I haven't formally met Joni Mitchell, but she was at, there's a bookstore in West Hollywood called Book Soup. It's like an independent bookstore. And one day I just went in there and she was there. She just released a book and she was there signing autographs. She did like a surprise visit to this bookstore. So I saw her in person, but I did not formally meet her. But I thought it was cool that she came and did that. That was a few years ago that she came and did that book signing. She just did a little surprise visit and met people. Oh, it was number 4 or so. All right, you all. I think that's everything for tonight. CNN is communist news. Rogan, though, has a good style and pace about how he interviews. Yeah, and that's another thing. He's just really good. He's really good at having conversations and getting people to talk. Joni Mitchell makes me think of Emma Thompson's character from Love Actually, and that burns me out. I don't know what that is. It's only 7 here. It's 10 here. Bookstores are magic places. I agree. I love going to a bookstore. That's why I was there. I used to go to that bookstore all the time. But bookstores are some of my favorite places ever. Do you want to see a cool book that I just got? I found like Eva's sleeping in the closet. I don't want to wake her up. Okay, I'll read you something from this book. I love this book. So I found this obscure bookstore that has just really out there books. And so I got this one. It's Famous Last Words. It's Fond Farewells, Deathbed Diatribes, and Exclamations Upon Expiration. Okay, so it has just like all kinds of people. Alexander Hamilton, Bing Crosby, Buffalo Bill, Cody, and it has things that they said before they died. I know that sounds morbid, but listen to this one. So this is Pablo Picasso. Hi, Fun P. This is Pablo Picasso, and he says, "Drink to me. What would you expect from one of the world's most What would you expect from one of the world's most prolific and egotistical talents, but a command to be toasted on his demise in 1973 at the age of 91? The brilliant Spanish artist, unflaggingly productive and endlessly provocative, was fond of paying people by check, knowing that his creditors usually preferred keeping his valuable autograph to cashing it." How funny is that? So he paid people in checks, never used cash, because he knew that people would want to hold on to his signature and not cash it. How funny. Hello. I thought that was really funny. But it has just cool stuff. See if I can find a cool one. That's clout. Yeah, it is. Trying to find you a good one. Melanie. What? In the closet. Yeah, she's in the closet. Woodrow Wilson. Horrified by the devastation of World War I, President Woodrow Wilson knew his support behind the League of Nations, a proto-United Nations, and a national whistle-stop campaign. He tried to win the support of the American people, exhausted by his travels and heartbroken by the Senate's rejection of the League. Woodrow Wilson suffered a stroke from which he never truly recovered, died in 1924, 3 years after leaving office. Some of his last words were, "The machinery is worn out." That was kind of depressing. Woodrow Wilson, worst president ever. Ooh, Houdini. Harry Houdini. "I'm tired of fighting. I guess this thing is going to get me." With these words, magician and escape artist extraordinary Harry Houdini performed his final disappearing act. The man who astonished millions with his ability to extricate himself from ropes, chains, manacles, Straitjackets, sealed trunks, and even a water torture cell fell victim on Halloween in 1926 to a simple case of appendicitis, and not as many claim to a college student's punch in the stomach. Oh, I didn't know that. I actually heard that. Sarah, you need to be on the Toby show with Hoda and Savannah. The Today Show? Or the Biden's going to do Woodson or Carter, Jimmy Carter. I heard Harry Houdini died because somebody punched him in the stomach, but apparently it was appendicitis. All right, you all. I'm going to head out now. I got distracted again. Thank you. Whoops. Thank you for joining the live stream. And I'll let you know before I go live next. That was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I always heard the punch too. Yeah, that's what I thought. The punch caused the appendicitis. You had mentioned BLM earlier. I recommend checking out Jesse Lee Peterson. He's in LA. He has some great video. Okay. You know who else does? If you have the time, if you want to. So Jesse Lee Peterson. Another person that has a really good video on BLM is Ami Horowitz. So look up Ami Horowitz, AMI Horowitz. Good night. But he has a good video. So he sort of does a deep dive into BLM Los Angeles, and it's really fascinating. What if the appendicitis caused the punch? I don't even know anymore. All right, bye you all. Have a really good night. See ya.